Welcome to the second session in the series of lectures which I will deliver as an ongoing strategy of the Mancosa Graduate School of Business. In the previous session, I highlighted the 8 objectives that must be achieved towards ensuring an effective human resource development program. The objectives are, firstly, to define human resource development, to relate the major historical events leading up to the establishment of human resource development as a profession. Thirdly, to be able to distinguish between human resource development and human resource management. And it is here that this session will be focused. To enable one to identify and describe each of the major HRD functions, it is also to describe how HRD can be linked to the goals and strategies of an organization. In addition, one must be able to recognize the various roles and competencies of an HRD professional. It is imperative that one is able to cite some of the contemporary challenges facing HRD professionals. And finally, to identify major phases of the training and HRD process. There are other objectives, but those are too many to mention here. I, however, have no doubt that you will experience other objectives that must be achieved as the business world develops and evolves. The progression towards a field of HRD involved, firstly, early apprenticeship training programs, which was on-the-job learning of watch and do as I tell you, developing the artisans which had the skills of, for example, crafting fine pieces of furniture or jewelry, and that craft is now extinct. Then there are the early vocational education programs. These are the trade schools in a rudimentary form. Then we get to the early factory schools. After that, the early training programs for semi-skilled and unskilled workers were where one learned the trade of becoming the plumber or the electrician at the technical colleges. The human relations movement, establishment of the training profession, and finally, the emergence of the HRD. The early factory schools. With the advent of the Industrial Revolution, hand tools were replaced by machines. Scientific management principles recognized the role of machines in better and more efficient production systems. This resulted in semi-skilled workers producing more than skilled workers in craft shops. Production increased, and as more machines were needed, there was a demand for engineers. And it is from this that Ford, Baldwin and Company, General Electric, National Cash Register were birthed. Early training programs for semi-skilled and unskilled workers was the next phase. Then there were very few training programs after this for semi-skilled and unskilled workers, and this is what changed. This changed after the introduction of the Model T by the Ford Company in 1913 and after World War II, when heavy artillery had to be manufactured. This production required retraining and retooling of machinery. Ford Company introduced the assembly line to mass-produce cars, and more assembly lines started mushrooming. These lines required only the service of semi-skilled workers to produce several tasks. The human relations movement. The factory system had an undesirable byproduct where there was the abuse of employees, they used child labor, the working conditions were poor, and the wages were low. Human resource management was led by Mary Parker Follett and Lillian Gilbreth. Human resource management highlighted the importance of human behavior on the job. Barnard, who described the organization as a social structure integrating traditional management and behavioral science applications. This movement continued into the 1940s with World War II as the backdrop. Maslow published his theory of needs and stated that people can be motivated by both economic and non-economic needs. Maslow distinguished between the lower order, which is the basic survival, and the higher order, which dealt with psychological needs. Theories like these reinforce the notion that the varied needs and desires of workers can become important sources of motivation in the workplace. Then there was the establishment of the training profession, and World War II was a catalyst for retraining and retooling factories to support the war effort. Defense companies established training within industries, and the federal government trained more than 23,000 instructors. Training programs were later established within larger organizations who had their own training department. Finally, this led to the emergence of HRD. In the 1960s and the 1970s, it was realized that training extended beyond the classroom. It increased employee involvement. It required trainers to also coach and counsel. Training and development competencies expanded to include interpersonal skills such as coaching, group process facilitation, and problem solving. We will now place the relationship between human resource management and human resource training in context. In some organizations, training is a stand-alone function or a department on its own. In most organizations, training or HRD is part of a larger human resource management department. Now, we go on to the definition of human resource management, which is the effective selection and utilization of employees to best achieve the goals and strategies of an organization, as well as the goals and needs of the employees. The responsibility for human resource management is shared by human resource specialists and line management. So human resource development fits into the wider domain of human resource management. And HRD functions entail training and development, organizational development, career development, new learning and performance wheel, strategic management, and human resource development. Now, the roles and competencies of a human resource development professional requires that one must be able to perform a wide variety of functional roles. And these functional roles are specific tasks, and they have expected outputs for a particular job. Example, a trainer. The human resource professional must possess a variety of competencies. The human resource function has foundational competencies that the individual or the HRD professional must harness to ensure their success. And these competencies develop areas of expertise, such as personal expertise. You must have personal competencies of communicating effectively with whoever you are dealing with. Then you must be able to have strong interpersonal skills. How do you interact with peers on a one-on-one basis or in a group context? You must also have business management skills so that you can understand why certain objectives must be attained. Human resource development professionals make use of these foundational competencies to develop the areas of expertise. From this, develop the HRD competency model. The areas of expertise in this model discusses how to design learning, how to improve human performance, how to deliver training, and then to measure and evaluate what has been developed and or what has been delivered. It teaches one how to facilitate organizational change. One has to recognize that the human resource development professional is the change agent, and therefore facilitating lies at the heart of human resource development. Managing the learning function is another area that must be taken cognizance of. Then finally, there is career planning, The human resource development professional is the change agent for the organization, and therefore facilitating the change process lies at the heart of human resource development. Another area is managing the learning function. Then we come to career planning and challenge management. This area of expertise then is an enabler to develop the 4 key roles for the human resource development professional. And the 4 key roles are that the HRD professional is the learning strategist, the business partner, the project manager, and the professional specialist. Other HRD roles and outputs are being a HR strategic advisor, the designer and developer of human resource systems, the organization change agent, as I alluded to earlier, the organization design consultant, the learning program specialist, the instructor or facilitator, the individual development and career counselor, the performance consultant or coach. The world of business will lose its dynamism if it does not encounter any challenges. And you will always find that organizations and human resource development professionals encounter challenges on an ongoing basis, but how they respond to these challenges is what will give them the competitive edge. The challenges entail competing in a global economy, encountering new technologies that are introduced. So better educated and trained workers are required to compete in a more sophisticated market. The retraining of the workforce as competition increased. They are required to institute quality improvement processes. The workforce must learn cultural sensitivity. The major challenge, however, is developing managers into global leaders. Then as business requirements change, workplace trends start emerging. In drastic times, you must take drastic measures. There are blurred lines between life and work. Everybody is always trying to obtain a work-life balance. Globalization has brought with it a small world, and it's shrinking. There are new faces and new expectations. One has got to work quick and be nimble at what you do. There has to be a security alert for any change. Then there is a new space for life and work in the E-lane, and there definitely has to be a higher ethical bar. All this must be encapsulated in the framework for the HRD process for it to be successful. HRD intervention should be designed using a four-step process, which is the needs assessment phase, the design phase, the implementation phase, and the evaluation phase. The areas of expertise in this model discusses design learning, improving human performance, delivering training, measuring and evaluating, facilitating organizational change, managing the learning function, career planning, and challenge management. Unless one can do all these functions as a HRD professional, there is little chance that the business will achieve its objectives. Thank you.